Why Iowa? Why this fairly agricultural state with a small population, seemingly in the middle of nowhere? And to be quite honest, I don't have a good answer other than why not. For some reason, this place just has a certain unique cultural aspect to it that I haven't been able to find anywhere else in all of my travels. It's rooted in the very core of who we are as Iowans, and I think that's something that's very, very special and incredibly unique to this state. And I don't want to leave it. I don't want to go somewhere else where I don't have that feeling. So for me, Iowa and agriculture go hand in hand. You can't separate the two. And I think that's a really, really good thing and something that's really important for us to realize as Iowans and as aspiring leaders here within this state, that it's so incredibly vital, not just to the entire state's well-being, but to individuals' well-being, not just farmers. I grew up in Oskaloosa, which is a smaller farming community. We have some manufacturing there as well, but you often knew how well things were going to go for the community based off of how well the markets were going to do that year for the producers. Same thing when I went to Dordt and Sioux Center, even more so, that community is dependent on agriculture production to fund its schools, to fund its roads, and to have overall economic success. So I think it's incredibly important for us as Iowans to be cognizant of what is happening, not just in our towns, not just in our cities, but across the fields of Iowa. I grew up in Oskaloosa, Iowa. We had a hog operation where we still have roughly 1,500 sows. We farrow to finish, so we breed our own, raise our own, and then sell our own pigs, which is fairly unique these days. We also have about 1,300 acres of corn and soybeans that we raise. I remember from a very young age wanting to be a farmer, wanting to be involved in agriculture. So I remember Successful Farming, the magazine, came to our farm when I was like 5 or 6 years old. But I remember there's a quote in that article that says that I one day want to be like my dad and work on the farm. And I held to that for probably a good 10, 15 years until I got into my later stages of high school. And I realized that it wasn't really for me. It was one of the toughest conversations I had to have with my father and my grandfather, who was still working on the farm at the time, about why I didn't plan to come back. And they were going to have to hope someone else in the family was going to take over. So I went off to Dordt. I took the easy way out and just studied business marketing. And in a way, I was completely determined to leave Iowa. I thought I was better than this state. I thought I was better than its people. And I thought I could do more than what Iowa had to offer me. I was looking to Chicago, to New York, to Europe. I wanted to go out and make a name for myself because I didn't feel like I could do it here. And that all kind of started to shift. I went through LIU. I'm obviously very biased. I think this is a wonderful program, and I'm very excited that you're a part of it as well. But that opened my eyes to the opportunities of business here in Iowa. And I started actually connecting the dots, from agriculture to industry to insurance to our political landscape, which is unique to any other state in the nation. I started to really process, what does it mean to be an Iowan? What is Iowa to me, and what is Iowa to others? So as I was thinking that more and more, lo and behold, the last summer before my senior year of college came up, and I needed something to do. I had fulfilled all my internship credits. I wasn't really looking to try and get a big time internship anywhere. I was just looking to make some money. I had just gotten back from studying abroad in Europe, and wanted to relax for a little bit. So I ended up working on the farm a handful of years after saying I would never come back. I set about kind of drumming up social media content from the farm, and realized I had a passion for something along those lines, communicating about agriculture. Went back to school, was looking for a job. And this was where the rubber really met the road for me in my journey towards agriculture. is I was applying for jobs and internships, anything I could get my hands on in first semester, and I had a couple of interviews over Christmas break. Great opportunities, great companies here in Iowa that I still have a ton of respect for. But it came down to getting 2 final interviews, one with a manufacturing company in Southeast Iowa that offered me a managerial position over a night shift that would pay very, very well. Everything that a college kid could dream of, pay off college debts as soon as possible, get in at a nice ground level with opportunities to quickly rise. And the other one was an internship with very low pay, no housing supplementation at all, to the National Pork Board and their domestic marketing department. And I got the calls, the offers about an hour apart, and I just really had to take some time to think about it, to pray about it, to really contemplate, where am I supposed to go? Where does God want me? And no matter how hard I tried to convince myself to take the actual job, I just couldn't. So I ended up going to the National Pork Board. I ended up living in really cheap housing with no guarantee of a job. I had a 3-month window to prove myself, and I managed to lengthen that into 7.5 months, and then eventually turned it into a job. And now I'm in a new position, and I'm absolutely loving it because I get to work for 60,000 pork producers. That's all there are in the United States. The entire United States, we have 60,000. And I think that's something that we miss out on, where we have probably we do have the best agriculture industry in the world. We are more efficient, we are more productive, our animal welfare standards are above anyone else's. We have better resources, and we have the best people. And still, less than 1.5% of the entire US populace lives on a farm. And that blows my mind. And I think it's what actually contributes to a lot of the misinformation and misunderstanding about today's agriculture. It used to be, I am a farmer, so I know what I do. And with our parents' generation, it was, my parents were farmers, so I know what they do. And now we're getting into the tail end of the millennial generation, the beginning of Gen Z, as they work their way into the workforce, where it's, my parents weren't farmers, but my grandparents were farmers, or my great-grandparents were farmers. And there's not a lot of connection there to how we raise our animals, to how we take care of the land. And it leads to a lot of issues. So that's why I think it's vitally important for us as Iowans to connect with producers. So the purpose of the National Pork Board, or the Pork Checkoff, another name for it, is 3 things, essentially. We want to educate producers and consumers on different things. Well, producers, how to raise pork properly, how to raise pigs properly, and consumers of how to consume pork, and also what's happening in the industry. And then the second part is research. We want to conduct research on consumers to figure out what they're doing from a purchasing perspective, but more importantly, do research on animal welfare practices, how to raise animals in the most effective and efficient and sustainable way possible. And the final part, where I come into play typically, is promotion. We seek to promote the brand of pork in general to the American public, as well as we have an international marketing team as well, dedicated to establishing relationships with countries that we export to, which we do. About 1/3 of all our product is exported. So what my job is to find out, based off the massive amounts of data that we collect, what consumers need and how can pork fulfill that need. And once we establish that, then the hard work comes into play of how do we get retailers, restaurants, grocery stores, how do we get them to capitalize on that need in a way that the consumers will understand and react to and purchase more pork, essentially driving the value of pork for the producers. How do we communicate to consumers digitally, in social media, with influencers? We do a lot of work with YouTube and Google. We We have accounts there with both of them, and we're one of the premier accounts where we use them for data insights on consumer activity, as well as leveraging YouTube to work with influencers to connect authentically with consumers. We've had about 5 sponsored videos go on the trending page out of our probably, I think, over a dozen, getting close to a dozen campaigns now, which is quite a feat. No other company that works with them has done that before. So we're incredibly proud of that work. But that's just one of the few challenges that we face as an industry, is just communicating with consumers. And that's something that I really enjoy, is representing the producer in those talks. Is the producer has no time for that. They're too busy raising amazing animals that we live off of on the farm, working 12-hour days for 6 days a week. So it's really, really fun to get to travel around the country and communicate with a myriad of individuals and personalities about, hey, here's where we think a need is for you guys. Here's what we know the consumers want. Here's what we recommend you guys do in order to address those needs. So we're essentially consultants, like the pork industry consultants for anything that the consumer touches. And it's a really unique opportunity. For me to be able to be in a position where I get to represent those people, and I get to go and talk to major corporations, get to sit down with them and say, hey, producers care about animals. Here's what we do. We have certified trainings that every pork producer is required to take. We constantly are looking for updates in our animal welfare standards and guides. Producers are constantly monitoring and maintaining the health of their animal herd. And it's not just because, well, they need to do so to be profitable. They do so because they care. And that's what's so vital. You get to actually encounter producers that care. And you see the passion in their eyes. And you can't help but think, I want to work for this person. I want to make sure that this person can just focus on being the best farmer he or she can be. I want to market pork on their behalf. I want to make sure that they have all the resources they need to be successful. And I don't think people truly realize how many organizations touch agriculture and support agriculture. And I think that's where there's a real opportunity here in Iowa for young leaders to step up and lead us into this new generation of agriculture, where we're confident in what we do and how we do it. We're constantly looking to evolve and adapt. The leaps and bounds that farming has made in the past 50 years is absolutely insane. We went from pulling horses with 1 or 2 row chisels through fields to having massive pieces of equipment feed the world. And that's astounding. So I'm incredibly excited to see what's going to happen in the next 50 years from here forward. So my question to you would be, what can you do? Where can you find some passion? I think that everyone can find a job in agriculture here in Iowa. Insurance, finance, industry, manufacturing, engineering, robotics, programming, health, mental health. I think there's a ton of opportunity for people our age to step up and to get into the wheelhouse of agriculture and drive it forward in a really positive way. We've been trending really positively for a long time. And I think as the old guard steps down and says, hey, we've industrialized it for you, we've made it really efficient, and we've started the process of making it really, really sustainable. We need you guys to take the wheel and continue to drive it that way. I think there's an incredible opportunity for us to step up and really answer that call.